In this video, we're going to look at C-Line. We've been using C-Line to do some programs, but we've not really talked about it. So a few things about C-Line. If I come up here, let me highlight these horizontal lines. That will let me get to the menu. So if I click on it, I get a menu, and across the top I've got edit, file, edit, view, and such. And under file I've got new, open, recent projects, close project, several choices. I've got settings here, and this opens my settings box. And under appearance, I can drill down and choose some things. I'm using a dark theme, what they call Islands Dark. I could switch it to a light theme. They've got a high contrast theme. I'll go ahead and change it back. I can control some things with menus and toolbars, and I'm not going to go over all of that. Under Editor, there are a number of choices, some general choices, and one thing that I pretty much always change is I make sure this change font size with Control mouse wheel is checked. By default, it's not. The rest of the stuff on that screen, I pretty much leave alone. Under font, I can change the font. The JetBrains monospace for me is fine, but I could switch it to one of these other fonts if I wanted. I can adjust the default size, and for purposes of doing these videos, I've made it fairly large at this 26 point. And I've got different color schemes that I can use, coding styles, a number of choices, and you can just play through those or look through those, see what they do, make a change, remember what you changed, and then go back and change it back if you don't like. I can control some things about file types. I have versioning or version control with Get if I choose. I can have plugins. I have some choices with how it will build the project, and a number of other tools that allow me to go in and do things. One thing is the code templates, and I can customize what happens when I create a new file. And I've customized my C++ source file so that when I create a new file, it's going to put some comments in, the name of the file, my information, when it was created, the description, my IO stream include, my using namespace, and my main function. So it's going to create that automatically for me when I create a new file. And if I wanted to add something else, I could. And this is a templating language, the things in these brackets. So I tell it that, then my pound, and whatever library that I wanted. So IO manip. And now if I save this, apply it, and save it, if I create a new file, it will have the IO manip in it as well. This little icon right here, that will open my file menu, and I can see the files that are part of the project. If I right-click on one of the files, I get a menu, and I can, again, create a new file, but I can come down and do things like rename it. I can run it. I can open it in Explorer, since I'm using Windows, and it will open the folder that file's in. So I've got my ability to right click and see that. I normally keep it closed while I'm doing most of my work. Up here in the upper right, I've got my run, so I can do my run. I can do a debug, and we'll talk about debug, and it has in it the name of a file that if I hit the run button, it is actually going to execute or run. Well, right now, it's actually showing the previous file that I ran. So if I hit run, it's actually going to run the one that I wrote previously. I can right click, and if I'm not in main when I right click, I get this menu. But if I'm in main, I get a menu that has the ability to run and debug the file that I'm in. So if I click the run here, it's going to execute the file, open my console. Over here on the right, the little horizontal line will close my console. Now this particular file that I just ran is up here in that window. Now I can use the drop down, and I can do a previous file, and I can change some configurations. But now if I hit the run button, it will run this program. We'll talk about debug a little bit later. Over here, I've got the ability, if it's got updates, to install updates. In my menus, my edit menu gives me cut and copy. I use the shortcuts Control C, Control V. I can paste. I've got a find, which allows me to search the program and find things, and also find and replace, just like in Word and things, with a number of other choices. I can build the project, which basically is compiling it. I can rebuild one that I've already built, or I can recompile. Pretty much that does the same thing as build. Clean up a project. I've got tools. I can run it from here. I can debug it, and a number of other things. If I'm using Git and using version control, I can control this here, and I can change what's displayed on some things with the windows. And you can play with those. I can also run things from down here at the bottom right and stop a program that's in the middle of running. We'll look at that more later when we get to debugging. So that's basically moving around in my program. Now, I've got a couple of little green arrows here. These are where blocks of code or blocks of comments are. And if I click it, I can get my run and such. Also, just to the right of it's a little down arrow if I highlight over it, and that will collapse that block. and I can click it again to open it up. So if I've got a long program, sometimes I want to collapse code, and normally when I'm working, I'm going to collapse my comments at the top. And now I have the ability to have more real estate on my screen as I'm working. So that's a little overview of C-Line and gives us a starting point in using it. As you use C-Line, if that's the editor you choose, you're going to find more things that it will do for you. If you're using a different editor such as VS Code or Z or any other editor, then you'll have to learn the ins and outs of making use of that editor very efficient. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe.